I just saw a really great movie. It's called The Lost King. It's a historical drama film centered on the extraordinary true story of Philippa Langley, an amateur historian who spearheaded the search for the lost remains of King Richard III. If you haven't seen it yet, you really got to check it out. The film follows Langley's relentless quest against skepticism and academic dismissal to uncover the truth about the much-maligned monarch. It's really cool because her efforts culminate in the remarkable discovery of Richard III's skeleton beneath, are you ready for this? A parking lot in Leicester, England in 2012. The film highlights themes of perseverance, the reevaluation of historical narratives, and the power of individual determination in challenging established historical misconceptions. And so this video is about the story of the search for King Richard III, whose remains lay hidden beneath the soil, shrouded in mystery and legend. To understand the significance of this discovery, we must first revisit the turbulent era in which Richard III lived. Born in 1452, Richard ascended to the throne in 1483, amidst the chaotic Wars of the Roses. His short reign was marked by political intrigue, fierce battles, and ultimately his death at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485. Richard's defeat at Bosworth ended the Plantagenet dynasty and heralded the rise of the Tudors, with Henry VII becoming the first Tudor king. See, as an American, this is what I've always loved about England. The history is awesome. We don't have that much of a history in the United States, and so I think it's great when people grow up in England with a great appreciation for their history, and they can have entire conversations about kings from hundreds of years ago and their family and all the court intrigue. It's fantastic. The English culture is beautiful. How much longer it'll last, I have no idea. Probably not much longer at this rate. But up until this point, it's really something special. And with everything that's going on in the world right now, it makes you wonder how much of English history is going to be erased and rewritten. You see, for centuries, Richard III's legacy was tainted by the accounts of Tudor historians, most notably Sir Thomas More and William Shakespeare. They painted him as a villainous hunchback who murdered his nephews, who went on to be known as the Princes in the Tower. You've probably seen the paintings. To secure his claim to the throne. These accounts shaped public perception for generations, casting Richard as a tyrant and a monster. And at this point, it looks like so much of it was just propaganda. Anyway, back to our story. In the 21st century, a group of dedicated historians and archaeologists embarked on a mission to uncover the truth about Richard III. Their quest began with a single, audacious question. Could the remains of the last Plantagenet king still lie undiscovered beneath the streets of Leicester? One lady certainly thought so. You see, the search was spearheaded by Philippa Langley, a screenwriter and member of the Richard III Society, who believed that Richard's final resting place was in the vicinity of Grey Friars, a long-lost Franciscan friary in Leicester. Historical records indicated that Richard was hastily buried there after his death in battle. However, over the centuries, the friary's exact location had been forgotten, its remnants buried beneath modern buildings and car parks. But Philippa Langley was pretty sure she knew where his remains were. And so, in August of 2012, the team broke ground on a seemingly unremarkable parking lot in Leicester. The excavation was a leap of faith, driven by historical research and a sense of purpose. As the dig progressed, the team unearthed medieval ruins, and soon after, they discovered a skeleton. The skeleton was found in a grave that appeared hastily dug without a coffin. It exhibited signs of scoliosis, a condition that causes curvature of the spine, aligning with historical descriptions of Richard's appearance. The remains also bore evidence of severe battle injuries, consistent with the brutal nature of medieval warfare. Yet, despite these promising clues, confirmation was needed. And so the next step in this remarkable journey involved forensic analysis and DNA testing. The team compared the DNA extracted from the skeleton with that of known living descendants of Richard III's family line. I mean, honestly, how cool is that? Which one to you is more interesting? The fact that you could extract DNA from a skeleton, or the fact that there are living descendants of Richard III's? The results were conclusive. The remains were indeed those of Richard III. This discovery not only confirmed the location of Richard's burial, but also provided crucial evidence about his physical appearance and health. Anyway, the analysis revealed that Richard did not have a hunchback, as popularized by Shakespeare, but instead suffered from scoliosis. which would have caused one shoulder to be higher than the other. This finding dispelled one of the most enduring myths about his physical appearance. Why do you think Shakespeare did that? I guess it made the character a bit more interesting, huh? Anyway, the injuries on the skeleton corroborated historical accounts of Richard's death in battle, including significant trauma to the skull, likely from a halberd or sword, suggesting he died from a violent blow to the head. Is it strange to you that I keep calling him Richard, as if he's a friend of mine who I periodically meet for tea and scones? If so, kindly let me know in the comments below. On September 12th of 2012, it was announced that the discovered skeleton might belong to Richard III. Several factors supported this identification. The remains were those of an adult male buried beneath the church choir, exhibiting severe scoliosis that would have caused one shoulder to be higher than the other. Furthermore, an arrowhead seemed to be embedded in the spine, and there were death-related injuries to the skull, including a shallow wound likely caused by a medieval dagger with a slender tapering blade and round guard, and a scoop depression probably inflicted by a sword. This was one heck of a battle, right? Can you imagine being stabbed in the skull? That had to suck. And then a scoop depression inflicted by a sword? No thanks. War ain't for me. Further examination revealed a gaping hole at the base of the skull, indicating a halberd strike. This injury, which would have left the brain visible, was fatal and clearly a mortal battlefield wound. He wouldn't have gotten that any other way. Another deadly injury was found at the base of the skull from a bladed weapon thrust, leaving a jagged hole and evidence that the blade penetrated to a depth of 4.1 inches. Wow. The skeleton showed a total of 10 wounds, 4 minor injuries on the top of the skull, a dagger blow to the cheekbone, nobody wants that, a cut on the lower jaw, 2 fatal injuries at the base of the skull, a cut on a rib bone, and a final wound on the pelvis, likely inflicted after his death. You see, it is widely believed that Richard's naked body was tied to the back of a horse, with his arms draped over one side and his legs and buttocks over the other. See, that's just rude. What do you need to treat somebody that way? It's bad enough you kill the guy. You gotta do that? The angle of the blow on the pelvis suggests that someone present struck Richard's right buttock with considerable force, intending to humiliate him. Kind of like what they did to Gaddafi, except he was alive at the time. Additionally, it is possible that Richard and his corpse suffered other injuries that left no trace on the skeleton. Yeah, it was a pretty brutal death. The discovery of Richard III's remains sparked a global sensation, captivating historians and the public alike. In March of 2015, Richard was reinterred in Leicester Cathedral with a dignity befitting a former king. The ceremony was an emotional moment, rectifying a centuries-old historical oversight. The reburial of Richard III also prompted a re-examination of his legacy. While the historical record is complex, the discovery has provided an opportunity to separate fact from fiction. The narrative of Richard as a monstrous villain, perpetuated by Tudor propaganda, try saying that 10 times, and Shakespearean drama has been challenged. While Richard's role in the disappearance of the princes in the tower remains a contentious and unresolved issue, there is now a greater appreciation for the complexities of his character and reign. The search for Richard III's remains was more than a quest for historical truth. It was a journey that bridged the gap between England's incredibly interesting past and the present. It underscored the importance of rigorous historical research, the power of modern science, and the enduring fascination with England's turbulent medieval history. And so as we reflect on the rediscovery of Richard III and this really great movie, we are reminded that history is not a fixed narrative, but a constantly evolving story. The tale of Richard III, once obscured by myth and legend, has been brought into the light, offering a more nuanced understanding of a complex figure. In finding Richard, we have not only uncovered a king, but also reclaimed a chapter of our shared past. So, what do you think of the story of the contemporary discovery of the remains of King Richard III? We all know the mainstream media lies to us all the time, and have done so forever. And many rarely feature experts who can counter the narratives that the media wants to tell. So what do you think of how historians and Shakespeare's portrayal of Richard III shaped public perception of him as a villain? Is it right or fair to think that he was, just because historians and Shakespeare said so? What impact did the discovery of Richard III's remains have on reassessing his historical reputation. Was he really such a bad guy? Don't tell me you wouldn't want to hang out with Richard III for a while. You know I would. What steps can we all take to differentiate between myth and reality in historical portrayals and even contemporary events? What responsibilities do writers and artists and the media have in representing historical figures and events accurately? What do you think of the latest trend in portraying historical figures by actors who in no way, shape, or form resemble the historical figures? Is that helping anybody? Is it right or fair that they portray people and events as they want to in order to shape your opinions? What are the long-term effects of inaccurate portrayals of historical figures on cultural and historical understanding? By exploring these questions, we can gain a deeper understanding of how myths about historical figures like Richard III are created, perpetuated, and eventually corrected through diligent research. If you enjoyed this show, kindly remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because there will be more shows like this one, and I hope you check those out too. Please check out the links below to learn how to support my research and productions. This channel is sponsored by CampfireShop.com, where you can order the highest quality and exclusive candles, herbal supplements, teas, and more. I'd also appreciate it if you could become a member of this channel and or join me on Patreon, where you could watch exclusive tours of cool places that I've been to. You could also leave a super thanks in the comments below. Kindly be kind to all of our fellow Earthlings, and please do not harm or eat them. They do not like that. Remember, for the benefit of compassion for all living things and their own health, brilliant people throughout history were kind to our fellow Earthlings. And please do yourself a favor and go to a local shelter and adopt a cat or a dog or both. You and they will be very glad that you did. Until next time, I wish you safe travels on all your journeys.